good to be here. A great cause to be joining up with Idaho Partners for Good. It is an honor to be part of this series and to share some of the things that I'm super passionate about. Thank you all for carving out some time to join us. Anyone who has known me for any amount of time has probably heard me talking about yes and, because I'm a little bit obsessed about improv. And it doesn't take long for you to be connected to me to start hearing and seeing all of that craziness come out of my face. And I love it because it works. It's a very simple tool, and you're going to learn right here in a short amount of time together a couple of different ways that yes and are going to be two words that, if you choose to, will revolutionize the way that you communicate at home, in the workplace, with yourself, in any capacity, especially when things are difficult. So I'm going to jump right into it. And one of the things that makes me, I don't even know why I share this with people, other than like sometimes people will commend me on like the confidence and how smooth things always seem to flow. And every single event I do, I allow myself to have it be open to what I think is supposed to be that day or for that group. Or maybe not even what I think, just suddenly things will come to mind. So even as I was sitting here in the minutes leading up to it, I suddenly was like, oh my gosh, okay, I gotta do this and this and this. So there's not a full preparation in it. And that is the testament of why the awareness of improv skills can be very empowering, because none of us can plan and have everything executed completely according to plan, even with our best efforts of trying to schedule our whole day. Or I'm a single mom of 4 kids, and so trying to make sure that things are at least in some sort of relative order to minimize the risk of things going sideways. I do my very best, and yet every single day there's something that's going to come that's slightly unexpected or different than I might have planned for. And the reality is all of us are required to improvise all the time, from the moment we wake up till we get back to bed at whatever hour that might be. And so if we can find ways to be more empowered by that and be excited about the fact that we can be fluid in the space of improvising without having to be funny, then it becomes a lot more delightful to just go from one task to the next throughout the day. I'm going to share my screen here though to jump into how in the world can we take improv to transform a yeah but attitude into a yes and mindset. Now, when I first was introduced to improv, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background. I learned improv when I was a bank manager. That's me down there in front. I was a young buck. This was in my early 20s. I was a manager of a bank called Washington Mutual. Rest in peace. That was, for those of you who don't know, the largest financial failure in the history of mankind. I was a branch manager in the 2008 debacle of when the world was turning upside down, and FDIC seized the bank and handed it over to Chase. And in a 12-hour window, we were suddenly a new company, new leadership, all sorts of turmoil was going on. And I cannot thank enough the whimsy and lightheartedness that I learned from my safe space of playtime in improv to roll with that. I was asked by my management at the time to come in, and we gathered all of the staff in the Idaho region down at the regional office to ramp people up, to be excited about this new opportunity as part of a new bank. And I was unsure of how it was going to, I didn't like how it felt. I didn't like hearing from my current leadership of Washington Mutual a certain narrative of things that were happening, finding out that wasn't necessarily the whole truth. And suddenly we're getting this welcome letter from a brand new CEO. And there was a lot of feelings I was feeling. And so I had a little fun with it. I went into this regional group and I wrote a parody song to Rihanna's Umbrella song about still being a cheerful Tella, Ella. Anyway, they went on. There was all the stuff about how to transition. I got people giggling and smiling again, diffusing the tension so that we could actually take those next steps that we needed to do. There was no choice. So when I learned about improv, there I was, backing up just a little bit. I was in this responsible career that I had started. I had since abandoned some of my dreams of running off to Hollywood or moving to New York City, and with these ambitions of being on Saturday Night Live, that I grew up wanting to do that. I was in this responsible job. I was married at the time. And my brother had called me up one day and was like, hey, do you want to do improv? And I was like, I don't know what improv is. And he's like, just come. I think you'll like it. I'm part of a troupe and we're looking for more chicks to be part of the team. And I think that you'll like it. And so I was like, all right. So I show up on a Saturday to a couple's house here in Boise, and there was a pile of shoes on the floor. There was furniture pushed to the sides of the walls, and all the space cleared. And there was 12 to 15 adults just playing in someone's living room. And they were laughing. There were puns flying. There was just this air of playfulness and connection. And I was like, what did I just walk into? And it blew my mind. I thought, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to have my fun, creative outlet to play on stage on the weekends. And then I'll have my, my stodgy bank job the rest of the time. Although my branches were never stodgy. So anyway, I was combining all these different tools. So as you can see, obviously, it's a little unexpected when things start to cross over, right? The professional side of life and our playfulness, and yet bringing them together can be a really powerful thing. So I'm going to talk to you guys about 3 of the rules of improv and how I learned them originally in performance land and how they translate to everyday life. And for me, they truly are the mindset tools I rely on many times a day. Sometimes it's an ongoing practice. When I very, very first started learning the rules, they welcomed me in and they said, this is a no judgment zone. We don't judge here. Zero judgment, which sounds great. It really does. When you have low stakes and you're playing games and these scenes and these little gimmicky activities last anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes each. And it's all just making stuff up. We're just using our imagination. Sometimes the goofier, the better, right? So being in a no judgment mentality is very easy. I guess I should bring that up. Is very easy in everyday or in that practical application of performance. In everyday life, not so much. So as I started teaching it, I transitioned the wording just a little bit to suspending judgment. Okay. Because I learned something, and you may agree with me as human beings, that zero judgment is impossible. It's not a thing. We all are going to have some sort of judgment. It's an important tool for us to consider information that we're getting or different experiences that we're having, to use it as a gauge of how we're thinking and feeling about different things that are going on. To suspend our judgment requires us, hopefully, to become more aware of when we're having any type of a judgment thought. Not always critical, could just be that awareness of something going on, that judgment thought, and then pausing so that we decide what we need to do with it, if we need to do something with it. Sometimes if we take a minute and we're like, oh, that was a weird thing that happened, or that's an opinion I don't agree with. If we don't have to engage, taking the opportunity to suspend our judgment can sometimes lighten our load. It can reduce our task list if we're like, wait, this doesn't have to be something I have to take ownership over or have to care a lot about. Or if I do care a lot about it, what is a way that I can take that information and use it in a way that is more compelling for good, for positivity? So suspension of judgment is just, it's foundational for us to become really aware and to start building this framework about how are we going to bring this yes and mindset into full fruition. So that's rule number 1. And I can only see part of you guys in the gallery when I'm sharing. And I always, when I'm in real life, when I'm telling people about these rules, I make everyone give me with gusto and vigor and vim a yes, that they're willing to, at least for the time with me, suspend judgment. Since you can't all say that, I'm going to look for your snaps and quiets and hurrahs and whatever you want to do, that yes, you are willing to suspend your judgment. I see most of you going, okay, good. Okay. The ones of you that didn't make sounds, I'm watching you guys, see what you guys think about the judgment. Okay. Rule number 2. Now, this is a kind of another buzzy one that will come up, is people are always like, participate fully. We need to be here now, to be present, sorry, to be present, which I love it. Being present, be here now. Like the future is already, or no, I'm saying them backwards. This is why improv matters. This is why coffee matters. The past has already happened. The future hasn't happened yet. And while we can kind of steer and hopefully go in a general trajectory of what we want in the future, all we have is right now, which I totally love, being present in the moment. The way that I've adapted it, which I already gave you guys a little sneak peek there, is to participate fully. Okay. Being present in the moment is wonderful. It can be a space for listening, for observing, for taking that judgment space when we're having thoughts and gathering data and starting to merge it with, okay, well, now how do we engage? Participate fully keeps us from being in a passive state. I remember working on a team for a while there. I managed FEMA grants for multi-million-dollar recruitment campaigns for volunteer firefighter programs all over the country, which I know is kind of a mouthful. And we had lots of money to use to tell people in rural America that we need volunteer firefighters. And we were around the table once, gathering ideas, kind of spitfiring, what types of campaigns do we want to do? And one of the ideas that came up by the boss at the time was like, I'm thinking fire and ice and whatever. I don't remember exactly where he wanted to go with it. And I was like, that kind of seems like a cologne, maybe marketing campaign. I don't know. Nevertheless, we put it up on the board. Everybody was throwing up the ideas of like, what do we want to maybe do for a billboard campaign, was what we were literally working on. Was these were going to be huge pictures on billboards all over rural America. And there was one person who was not speaking up at all. They were sitting there just kind of listening, twiddling their pen around, doing the whole rock back and forth in their seat. Fast forward a little while into the future, a few months had passed, and that was by far the worst performing campaign of all the campaigns that we did. But we went for it. We tried it. We're like, you know what? He was excited about it. He had a vision. We all tried it. We backed it up. And then when we were looking at the analytics, that one person who didn't say a word during the meeting, not positive or negative, was like, I knew it was going to suck. And we're like, hey, you don't get to chime in here when you were not part of the strategy. Then even if you didn't agree, you could, like, when everyone gets on board and participates and there's an idea that has been determined, then we all get to go, all right, and how do we rally together and try to make this idea the best case scenario? And so full participation really became a clear thing for me in that moment and many other moments, where it helps us to take ownership. It allows us to become part of what is going on. It does not mean we have to always be right. In fact, many times we won't be right. We'll just be experimenting with new ideas, trying new concepts. And as we learn what works and doesn't work, we'll know quicker ways to course correct if we need to. So full participation to me is just really being in it, not only being present and observing and listening, but to actually give my input and to feel confident in stepping into a space and allowing everyone to be part of it without being criticized right in that moment. Another thing, just a little side note with participating fully, is in time management. Back again in my management days in the branch, my door was always open. So people would always want to come in, just chat with whatever they did that weekend or customer issues or whatever. It didn't matter. People always wanted to be in my office talking about something. So I would have to figure out how to balance all my workload and all the stuff that was going on with people walking in and out of my office. So one day I was typing an email and someone walked in and they were about ready to just start talking, telling me all about the stuff. And I was like, wait 1 second. I cannot give you my full attention right this moment. I'm like, I need about 3 minutes to finish this email. And then I can give you about 7 minutes for whatever you need to say. And then we need to get back to whatever, to our day. And when I said you get 7 minutes, you better believe that that person was watching the clock. When you give specific timeframes or expectations, people pay more attention. And then we both committed, like we were in it for that 7 minutes. We got stuff done quickly. It also changed the way I structured my staff meetings. On Monday morning, sometimes I would text the team and be like, hey, you guys come in 20 minutes later. The tasks, or, the things we need to talk about today are only going to take 25 minutes or 35 minutes. So giving people like a little bit of a framework allows more investment in what is really happening right in that moment. Because even in a situation like this, like anytime I'm speaking or presenting, like I feel like I've gotten enough feedback in my life that I'm an engaging presenter. I'm a fairly engaging person. And yet I would wager, and you don't have to all raise your hands, that probably every single one of you since the start of my presentation mere minutes ago have probably thought about something else other than this presentation. You can nod if you want an agreement. We may have been something family related or other work tasks or something about my hairdo. I don't know. It could have been something totally unrelated to my presentation because that's what our brain is doing, right? We all know though that this presentation is going to honor your time and you're going to be back and on to the next thing exactly by the hour, and we will not go a minute over. And so knowing that, you can be really fully present and participate in this experience right now, with that comfort of knowing that we're watching that time and respecting it for you. The third rule and the foundation of improv is yes and. A lot of times over the years when I've talked about yes, people will be like, ugh, I don't want to say yes to everything, Megan, or otherwise I end up having a calendar full of obligations I don't want to have to deal with, or I have to agree with someone that I don't agree with. It starts to get a little mixed up in our brains of what I mean when I say the word yes. And it's true that when I learned improv in that playful space, when we're performing, the yes comes across as an agreement, even if something is weird or unusual. And that's kind of what heightens the stakes and makes things more entertaining in a comedic performance. Yes, in everyday life, it's easy to say, if you want to do the thing, if you want to go to the movie with your friends, or if you want to, whatever the thing is, that's something you want to do or have, it's easy to say yes when you want to, when you do agree, when you feel like it's going to be a fun or good use of your time. Using yes in the sense I'm about to teach you is going to be the game changer when it's an acceptance and an acknowledgement for what is. It is not an agreement. It is taking yes and saying, this is a vessel here that will allow me to take whatever the task is at work, the health issue I have to deal with, the cat puke on my carpet, whatever the thing is, and say, yes, I acknowledge and accept that that is a thing. That is not to deny that that thing exists and requires we do something with it. Okay, so if we do have to take action and we maybe aren't sure, perhaps we do want to brainstorm with some friends or colleagues to get ideas, which I highly encourage that you cherry pick the things that still feel right for you. Don't ever take shoulds or suggestions or advice as like, that's the end all be all. Look for it as an opportunity to open up to like all the things that are possible, to unlock curiosity around what you can expand into when you have a yes presented at you. Okay. Yes, and accepting and acknowledging what is, and then building and moving forward with it. So when you merge all three of these rules together and you have that awareness of, oh, here's something coming up. What am I thinking about it? How am I feeling? What is it, positive or negative? What is the thing that is influencing in my space right now? How am I going to step in? Am I going to be passive, or am I going to step in and engage? And if I do, what is that going to look like? And if I start with the mindset of yes, as an acceptance and acknowledgement, it will make it easier to pull together, especially when it's hard, a way to move forward more collaboratively and in a more open way. I'm going to stop sharing here for just a minute because I want to be able to see more of you here for a bit. When I first engaged in using yes and, where I literally said yes and out loud, was when I had an angry overdraft customer come barreling into the branch, just fuming. And some of the other customers were like it was that extreme that he was like, bah, and huffing and puffing, and other people were kind of looking like they were stepping back. And I was working at the teller window already at the time. He comes up to my window and he's just yelling, my wife did this, and your bank is stupid, and the fees, and he was yelling about all the reasons why everyone was stupid, why nothing was his mistake, and everything sucked, right? And I'm like, oh, I didn't know at the time, but I was like, oh, my empath, insides are getting just strangled. Anyway, so I'd be like, inside. I kept my cool there for a minute, and I actually looked at him and I said, yes. And I paused and I tried to breathe. I go, okay, what's going to happen next? I said, yes. And he was not expecting to hear a yes after he just yelled. Then after like in moments, it diffused. It took maybe, I don't remember, maybe 10 or 15 seconds at longest. That felt like eternity. And then I said, all right, I guess literally I didn't say and, but I was like, all right, let's look and see what we can do. I'm like, yes, I hear you. Overdraft sucks. Okay. Now let's look at it. If I had used my yeah, but mentality or my yeah, but strategy, which I actually did try with past overdrawn customers, and it would wreck my day of being like, I can see their bank account, guys. I don't know how many of you know this, but as the banker, I could look and see where they were spending their money. So I could be like, well, maybe if you didn't spend this, this, and this, and this, the liquor store, the whatever, all the things, you spent $600 at Cabela's yesterday, good Lord, he knows I would look at what people were spending money on and then be like, well, and that never worked. Fun fact, telling someone like what they did wrong when they're already ruffled does not help the situation. And so using that yes to diffuse it, even though I did not necessarily agree with the way he was spending his money, it was none of my business. So finding a way to reach resolve, and newsflash, I could rarely refund overdraft fees, and they really do suck. I've overdrawn in my life before. I'm sure other people have. And it's not fun. Money is an important component of our life. And so I'm very sensitive to that. So when I saw that in action, and this is years ago, I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I'm going to teach people how to yes and, especially when stuff is hard and scary and tension is high. Yes, I see someone saying I can picture this with the kids too. Absolutely. If you want to shift the way that you have a dynamic, and anyone who has kids, any parents in here who have kids, like I try to learn a lot about kid stuff and reading books about how to be a good parent and all this stuff. And every time I go through processes of what we could do for kids, I'm like, this is what we need to be doing for adults. The kid within all of us, within each of us, has at some point kind of been weathered. We've grown up into these societal constructs that we have to show up a certain way. When you look at studies of like kids laugh, and I estimated like 100 and some odd times a day, and adults like once, if they're lucky. And we like bridging the gap between the way we communicate with our kids and how we can do that intentionally with adults. I mean, I could tangent any which way, but you can totally hear that. Like having a conversation with the kids, the more they're hearing, yeah, but, or no, or we can't do that, look for the ways to find wins with yes and. Say, yes, oh, I hear you. You're so excited. You really want to go to the water park. And that'll be awesome if we can do it with whatever. Put something that you need to in place in order for that to be something that could someday come to fruition, right? Letting them have the wins with yes and. We're going to play a couple of short activities, and this is where I do need some participation. I need 4 total people to participate. It's for a very short activity of 2 different rounds. It's a total of just like a few minutes. So I need some brave people. If you want to raise your hand virtually and come off of mute, and that should bump you up to the front. I see Ashley. Thanks, Ashley. Over here. Need a couple more people. Awesome. Courtney. This is so fun. 2 more people. Oh, Jeanette. Awesome. Okay. Need 1 more. Be brave, friends. You're going to love it. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So we've got Katie. Okay. So now that the 4 are up here, I'm going to pair you up the way that I can see you on the screen. So Courtney and Jeanette are going to be a pair. Katie and Ashley will be a pair. Before we start this activity, which is going to demonstrate the difference between yeah, but and yes, and, I need the 4 of you to each think of something you love. Don't say it out loud yet. I want you to think of something. It could be a person, a place, a thing, a dessert. I don't care what it is, but whatever it is like, oh my gosh, I love that so much. I can't get enough of it. And then raise your hand, either your real hand or a digital hand, when you have the I love statement in your head. Okay, cool. So now Courtney and Jeanette, you're going to do the first round. I'm going to start a timer here in just a moment. This is only for 45 seconds. When I say go, Jeanette is going to start a conversation with Courtney, and she's going to start it by saying, I love blank. And she's going to say the thing that she is thinking about that she loves. Courtney is going to reply with, yeah, but, and then respond to what Jeanette just said. Then for the 45 seconds, we're just going to watch them have a conversation going back and forth for the duration of yeah, but leading their response. So only the very first statement that Jeanette will say is, I love blank. The rest of the responses are yeah, but response. Then yeah, but Jeanette's going to respond to Courtney. Got it? Until I say time. All right, Jeanette, go.
I love my dog Pretzel.
Yeah, but doesn't Pretzel like make accidents on your floor a lot?
Yeah, but it's nice to have a dog in the house to keep me company when my husband's out of town.
Yeah, but like the dog hair and all the things you have to do for the dog and picking up the poop in the backyard and stuff.
Yeah, but it's nice companionship, you know, and I can just sweep up the dog hair.
Yeah, but wouldn't you rather have like a human to keep you busy and give you that companionship?
Yeah, but I mean, I'd have to talk to a person. If I don't talk to my dog, he's okay with just being around me.
Yeah, but
Okay,
then wouldn't that
All right. Okay, before we unpack, now we're going to switch roles. We're going to switch roles here. So Courtney is going to start the round. We're still on yeah, but round. This time Courtney gets to say what she loves. And then we're going to watch this unfold again. So everyone else keep observing and take notes of anything that you want to share here in a moment. And then Courtney, whenever you're ready, start with your I love statement.
I love food.
Yeah, but you have to buy food. You have to like go out and find food to buy, and that's like kind of exhausting.
Yeah, but it just tastes so good and it makes me feel so good.
Yeah, but is that feeling really good for your body? I mean, usually the food that tastes good isn't good for you.
Yeah, but the way that it just like tastes and feels and I get so much pleasure out of it, it's the best.
Yeah, but too much of anything is not a good thing, you know? Even too much pleasure from food isn't good for your brain.
Yeah, but what's the point in life if you can't have like some pleasure and some happiness?
Yeah, but we also need to like keep going in life, right? So we have to work hard and we have to earn money and we have to do things that we don't necessarily like.
Fine.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay. We'll give them all a little round of applause. Before we switch gears here, if you want to drop in the comments, or Courtney and Jeanette, if either of you want to say, like, what words would you use to describe how that round felt?
Nervous. I would sorry, Jeanette. I would say nervous of what I'm going to say next. What's she going to say? And then how am I going to respond?
I just felt defensive about something that wasn't necessarily an argumentative topic.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. And so then some of the comments are justifying your position quickly turns into a battle, defensive, argumentative, frustrating. We're kind of getting the vibe here, right? Yeah, but feels negative or a downer. It's frustrating to listen to. For some of us watching, I know it can be like, ooh, get me out of here. Okay. All right. So we will put a pin in this one. Now we're going to switch. Thank you very much to Jeanette and Courtney. Now, Ashley and Katie, come on up. We're going to switch it to the beloved hero of our workshop today, the yes and round. So when I say go, Katie is going to say, I love blank. She's going to tell us what she loves. Ashley is going to respond with yes and respond to that. So for the duration of this 45-second round, it will be yes and blah, blah, blah. Yes and blah, blah, blah. Got it? Katie, go ahead when you're ready.
All right. I love all wiener dogs, especially mine named Winnie.
Yes, and that's such an adorable name. I've always loved that name.
Yes, and she's super cute and fulfills her little old lady self that matches her name.
Yes, and I bet it's so nice to have a companion around you all the time.
Yes, and she is super comforting and she makes me feel happy every time I'm around her.
Yes, and I bet it's so nice to go back to someone every single day after a long day at work.
Yes, and she's so excited every time I get home. It's so nice to come home to.
Yes, I bet that's so fun to have a little friend to talk to that doesn't talk back.
Yes, she is absolutely my best friend and my ride or die companion.
Time. Okay, great job. Okay, now we're going to switch roles for our final round of yes and yeah, but. So Ashley is going to start with her I love statement, and then Katie, you know the drill on yes anding. And whenever you're ready, Ashley.
I love pizza.
Yes, and it is so good when it has pineapples, contradictory to what everybody else says. It's so good.
Yes, it's so great that everybody has different opinions and choices about different types of pizza toppings.
Yes, I honestly think that they all are good toppings, regardless of personal opinions.
Yes, and you can have pizza for every meal of the day, which is so incredible.
Yes, and nobody should be judgmental whether you want to have a slice first thing in the morning.
Yes, exactly. You can have a dessert pizza or you can have a savory pizza.
Yes, and I think that pizza is good cold and warm.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Time. Okay, great job. Everyone give them a round of applause. Katie and Ashley, thank you. Okay, if we noticed anything different, drop some comments of what words you might use to describe that round. And Ashley and Katie, you are welcome to chime in of what you felt during that round too.
I feel like it was just more uplifting, even if it's kind of nonsense back and forth. It's just so much nicer and has a nicer flow of conversation versus the yeah, but.
And I think I felt more heard and less like judgments coming from the other person while explaining, even if it was a silly subject.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. And when someone puts it back on you, like we got to hear more like the feeling about how much Katie loves her dog. Any of us who are pet owners, like letting that really sink in and being like, oh, they're still giving me some attention on this. And it's awesome. In fact, okay, so let's read some of these comments. So someone said conversation moved slower, which I'm hope that is looked as a positive thing. If people are taking time to look and go, oh, interesting. Isn't that interesting? Instead of like those super quick knee-jerk reactions sometimes we have in our yeah, but state. Some other comments were better overall energy, positivity, generally more accepting. Absolutely. Seemed as if they were more heard, able to connect as people find similarities, positive energy, several things that say positive, calm and interested to hear what's next, more playful. The tone and the cadence went up and more energetic, validating, full of love. Okay, so there's lots of comments on here. You can see the difference here, right? And these are very simple examples. So if we can take this and imagine using this when there's a hard subject, what a difference it might make. And I encourage and really want people to feel inspired by taking these examples of, like Ashley was saying, these are not really that big of topics. Like this is not, these are everyday types of a thing. If someone yeah buts on something pretty minuscule though, or seemingly low level of importance, then what happens when there is something that really matters? If you're going to get yeah butted on your pizza topping, which in a real live group one time, the guy started with, I love sardines on my pizza. And it was supposed to be the yes and round. And his partner was like, oh. And I was like, you're yeah butting with your expressions. And she's like, yes. And that's disgusting. And I'm like, okay, we got some work to do here. The idea of it is though, learning to do things in small baby steps, right? This is not a new concept for us to take something at when a kid learns to ride a bike. So my youngest is finally confidently riding a bike without training wheels or anything. And before he needed to have the training wheels and kind of get the feel for it. And then just as the confidence of him taking off down the road without the training wheels, once he learned to balance, it was because there was that foundational skill. So yes, and in this playful, seemingly trivial space, if you can adopt it and really listen to it, in things that don't matter, it will change everything for you in every other space when it does matter. If you can take that space of our suspending of judgment and think of how we can truly participate and be part of what is happening, part of the conversation, part of the energy behind the change that we hope for in the world. And the world needs it. I'm sure you're all aware. I can't be the only one in this country right now going, well, what now? On so many things. And I know from having been around improv for years, I will never be able to have a successful conversation with someone if I enter it with yabba energy, period. There's no way I can enter that conversation and expect any type of change for good. When you use yes, and as you can imagine, if someone is saying something, if you give them that space, that yes, slow it down. Yes. Isn't that interesting? Tell me more. The more I see or hear something I don't agree with or I don't understand because of these tools, it helps me to use it as a vessel for curiosity. Like I cannot even begin to entertain change on a certain topic unless I understand where the other person is coming from. And just as much as someone will want to talk on and on and on about their dog or their kids or, their passion in life, whatever the things we love to talk about ourselves, they're going to want to talk about their causes. So especially where it matters, if you want to hear about someone's political view or gun control or pro-choice, pro-life, whatever your very heated scenario might be, if you enter it with, yes, that is a really interesting perspective. I would love to know more. How did you form that perspective? Like it blows my mind. Now I know I am promising to keep on time with some things here, and I never know exactly where my brain's going to want to take some things. But I think it's important to show for me how I love to demonstrate a simple example of this and how hard it can be. So Justin's, as we've just did the yes and yeah, but another really quick way to think of it is with a game that's called Yay Boo. And again, it's hard to do on virtual because I can't hear you all at the same time. So I want everyone to get your hands into frame though, so I can see your hands. So that if you were agreeing and you're like, yay, it could be like this, yay, hands up or thumbs up. And if you were disagreeing with me and it's boo, I want you to be like, boo, get aggressive. Let me see the boo. Okay. So with yay, boo, I'm going to take a really simple subject and I'm going to show you, yeah, but yes, and energy. So we'll just take ice cream, for example. Now I'm going to tell you first why ice cream is the best thing ever. And if you agree with me, give me some yay. Okay. And then when I'm going to flip it and tell you also why ice cream is the worst thing ever. If you agree with me on what I say, I want you to boo, rally with me why it's terrible. Okay. All right. So ice cream, it is so delicious on a hot day and there are so many flavors to choose from. Yay. It's so loaded with calories. Ooh. Oh, it's so fun though to stack it up and see if you can get more than one scoop on an ice cream cone and like balance your skills of flavor and delicious excitement. I don't know what to say. Oh, I'm lactose intolerant. Okay, that's enough of that one. You see how quickly like you could take the exact same thing and switch the energy. So imagine if I were like, okay, our next subject is President Biden. Here we go. Just kidding. I'm not going to do that one. But you can imagine where any topic that comes up, you're going to have, you see it on your Facebook wall. You see it on even LinkedIn these days of people being like, here's the position and here's why it's the only correct, right, accurate thing. Yay. And then the people that agree, of course, are doing what? They're rallying, they're liking, they're sharing. That same exact topic is also flipped to where someone is saying, no, this is my opinion, and this is my one experience, which must make it blanket statement for the entire universe. And they're rallying people against, whatever was said. I don't even I know I'm over explaining it. The point is my head wants to explode on the daily, really, when I'm like, guys, we know, we get it. It's easy to rally, right? And you're with your yes-anders. It can be sometimes people think they're yes-anding if they are just agreeing and rallying. Yes and energy, true yes and energy is not going to be the mobs of people with pitchforks being like, yes, we're right, and those other people are wrong. End of story. Yes, Anders are going to be like, yes, you know what? This is my position, and here's the frame of reference I have from my singular experience. And as much as my opinion is true and valid for me, I have to believe and honor that other people feel the exact same conviction. So using that as a way to connect is just a game changer. Now, all right, checking the clock here. I've got 10 minutes. So I'm going to read, I have a little blurb that I was feeling compelled to read. I don't exactly know why, but here we go. I wrote a book. In 2015, I published this little book here, and I am working on the second edition because I changed back to my maiden name after a series of unfortunate events in my life occurred. And at the time I wrote this book, I was stepping into the space of adoption advocacy. So long story short, I got knocked up in high school. I was a senior in high school, whoopsies. And because I was a good little Mormon girl and I was the class president of my youth group, I didn't tell a single person that I was pregnant, except for the guy that got me pregnant. That's not a healthy thing to do. I don't recommend it. So in all these years later, I was like, I didn't want to tell people because I was afraid of being judged. It was my personal little private story because after I finally had this baby, I chose to place the child for adoption. I felt very good about it. It was a choice I made for myself with the support of to some degree of the dad, you know, that we were in different seasons. We were both very young, right? And so I stepped in 2015 feeling very compelled. I'm going to share this story. And I was like, just to bring adoption into the conversation in the very heated topic, folks, of what to do in the case of an unplanned pregnancy. What I'm about to share with you is not necessarily about that. I just wanted to give you a frame of reference that when I came into that arena of sharing my adoption story, which has a fairly positive from start to finish end, I ultimately reunited with that child. She now lives 20 minutes from me with her husband and has recently given birth to my first biological grandbaby. Her adoptive parents, her parents live here as well. And I'm great friends with them. And I know not every story has like super happy endings. That everybody in my space, thankfully, is in a yes and mindset. And even when it's hard, we have hard conversations about how to set boundaries, how to have conversations to where everybody feels comfortable, and to learn how to have a relationship and be respectful of each other. And so when I stepped into that arena, I also realized, oh my goodness, everyone and their dog wants to share with me their story of their unplanned pregnancy, which had different outcomes. Some of them by their own choice, some of them where they feel pressured, all of them were their unique story, whether they had aborted the pregnancy, whether they had chosen to parent the child or placed for adoption. Every single one of those permanent decisions is a very challenging scenario. And so I started to think a lot about judgment. So when I wrote this book, I really wanted to emphasize some thoughts around judgment, as I speak a lot about in improv. So I'll read a little blurb here for you. What have we become? Why do we let so many outside influences dictate our actions, our beliefs, even the clothes we wear and the way we style our hair? Why do we question ourselves and the way we raise our kids or how to keep our homes? So many of us are so focused on becoming who we think we are supposed to be instead of honing in on our unique personalities and talents to be super neat individuals that we are meant to be. We become the things that other people project on us, and in turn, we are guilty of projecting onto other people as well. It all comes down to judgment. Yeah, it's hard to talk about real issues with real people because our idiot nature makes us evaluate the situation and compare ourselves to what other people have done. It makes us feel better if we can say, well, I have never done that. I hate to think that I was so impressionable that I might have let someone else's advice dictate my decision. But the truth is, I really do trust people and assume that their opinions are valuable. I take what people say to me as face value and don't question their logic behind it, nor would I ever expect anyone to tell me something without a genuine care for my best interest at heart. But here is a thought that makes me shudder. What if I had told people, what if I had got sent away to the pregnant housing situation in Utah where they send all the bad Mormon girls to hide the shame, and it would have put on my family? Yikes. I've had some pretty horrible stories, or have heard some pretty horrible stories about people who got shunned, tucked away, out of sight, out of mind by their own family, and it disgusts me. I, like many other church-going people, was taught, judge not, that ye not be judged. For with that judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with the measure ye meet, it shall be measured against you. But I'll be darned if we don't still mess it up over and over ad nauseum. I don't think it's intentional, but truly, the only way to not be judgmental is to intentionally not judge. We have to lead every thought with love and accept that we don't have to know every detail of someone's story to let that story be their journey and to love them regardless. So there's just a little blurb in it. It is really challenging, and I totally get it. And yes, and can be a tool to set boundaries and to learn how to interact with people. If you are confronted with yeah, but energy, and you're not going to get anywhere, use that as a way to say, yes, I hear you. And we have different opinions. And I love you anyway. And I'm going to love you from over here. Like, as much as possible, use it as a way to remove yourself from those very tense situations. The last little part that I want to do is I'm going to jump back onto my share screen. I know I have just a couple of minutes left with you, but I want to quickly share with you this funny little punny thing I came up with called the yes andwich. Get it? Yes andwich. Oh my gosh, I love it. Years ago, I came up with this idea, this little reminder of sorts of how to use principles of improv to keep a positive mindset, no matter how hard things might get in our lives. And especially when things are hard, take a moment to catch your breath and to determine, like, what do you want to take next? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Yes, and can set you up for success with that. So the layers of the sandwich work like this. Pickles, these represent the challenges that we're going to have in life, the things that are going to make us bitter. We might feel a little bit sour about it, but we don't have to make a big deal out of it. Oh, I know I can hear you guys moaning, even though your volume is off. The lettuce. Let us explore new things. Let us try new activities. Let us continue to learn and grow and expand the things that we can do in life. See what our strengths can result in personally and professionally. Unless you want to remain stagnant. Oh my gosh, it keeps going here, guys. All right, then there's the tomatoes. Now, these are the fixins. We all like different things on our sandwiches, right? And for a long time, I didn't even have a pun for this one until this sweet high schooler told me, you should tell people that you love improv from my head to my toes. And I was like, oh, there it is. There's our tomatoes. But in this sense, the tomatoes is just that whatever life is going to throw our way, we as individuals have the fixins to work our way through it. Cheese, surprisingly, is not a punny one. It's cheese. Like, we got to have that cheesy goodness in our life. Find something every day that brings you a little bit of joy. Find a reason to smile. Get that childlike giggle on that we used to have when we were young. Find that Instagram account that always has the ridiculous memes. Call the friend that, do people still use phones? Text your friend, do whatever. Connect with a friend that always makes you feel better. Or sometimes when I'm really super grumpy, I literally will go look in a mirror at my grumpy face and I will make myself smile. And that annoying thing that happens is that I can feel the energy change. You can fake laugh and it will make your body still produce the same joyful endorphins if you were really laughing. So you have to focus on yourself and finding joy each day. The meat, this is you guys. You're the layer of substance in your meat or in your sandwich. So it doesn't matter what kind. If you go into a deli, you see all the good sandwiches. You see like the Reuben, you see the turkey and Swiss, you see the whatever meatball sub, like all the different sandwiches, the roast beef, the corned beef. It doesn't matter which kind of beef. All the sandwiches in their own right are delicious. And someone is walking into that deli looking exactly for you. So if you're the bologna sandwich, be the best dang bologna sandwich you can be. And your people are going to be attracted to all that is your bologna way. I don't know why I use bologna for that. I just love it. But don't compare yourself to what the other sandwiches or think that other sandwiches are better. You are just the kind of meat you're supposed to be. Then you take yes and you just slather on a heaping helping of your yes and then you grab life by the buns and you just gobble it up. Right? If you eat a sandwich and you get all the flavors, like when you get the condiments and the bread and the pickles, all the different flavors in one bite, those are the best bites. And I used to think life was separated out. I used to think, oh, there's going to be the trials and then it's going to be easy. Like for me, I legit for a while there was like, oh, great. I had this horrifyingly traumatic experience when I was young of an unplanned pregnancy. And I was like, all my problems in life are front loaded. So the rest is going to be smooth sailing, right? And that was not the case. Unfortunately, things got much worse in other ways. And yet they become part of the powerful story that helps me be even more compelled to approach things in a positive and productive way. So experience it all together. It's the joy and sometimes the heartache in the exact same day. They run tandem together. So don't be afraid of letting those experiences merge together. And that is ultimately how we can get better results in keeping a positive mindset. Like all that awareness of how are we stepping into each moment. I would love to stay connected with you guys for any additional information here, but thinking about how much control we have is right here inside our skulls. That is where everything is made or broken. If we're faced with something challenging and we can choose to rise to the occasion with a yes and, then it makes it easier. I still have challenges. I still have specific butters in my life that I have to deal with for certain things. And I never will win if I match them in but energy. It will just always feel yucky. So the quicker I can yes to accept and acknowledge whatever the task is at hand and stay in what I like to call the ready position to improv my way through life, is to go, yep, all right, this is what I'm working with, and use my and to, as quickly as possible, negotiate my next steps. And using this space is so, it's so fun and empowering, because even when things are not fun, it feels more light and welcoming and productive when you intentionally use that yes and energy. All right. So I went a couple of minutes over, but I promise we're going to be done by the noon hour. So thank you so much for having me. I would love to stay connected with any of you guys in the future. And big thanks to Idaho Partners for Good for presenting this today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan. If you want to get off of mute and give her a round of applause or provide the emojis, whatever you want to do, thank you. That was an incredible